Later, he voted against the proposal. I'm going to vote no because of numerous reasons, he said. I think this whole thing is a little extravagant for Kirk County, and I see the word sirens and all that stuff in here. Back at the RV park, Marianne Moran told us she thinks any early warning could have saved lives.
All these people lost their lives, and they're just all over our area, and you can't help. You can't save them. It's too late. It's too late.
One man who evacuated the park today said he saw those floodwaters almost wash his wife off the road, but she and everyone else in that park, they were able to get out safely.
Thank goodness. You mentioned river calling, Jason. What exactly is that? How's that work?
This is an old system where somebody upstream would see the water starting to rise. They'd call their neighbor downstream. They'd call their neighbor downstream. And they seemed to like this when we go back and look at media minutes. However, the park we were at today, they said those calls never made it down as far as them. They relied on media reports. They relied on these phone alerts. That is not something they were getting in the middle of the night.
Okay, Jason Allen, thank you so much. Well, now more of the top stories from around the world in tonight's evening news roundup. 10 people are charged with attempted murder after allegedly staging an ambush at an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. Investigators say some of the suspects lured officers outside by shooting fireworks at the building and painting graffiti. An officer was shot and is out of the hospital. Authorities are investigating whether the July 4th attack is linked to a shooting yesterday at a Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. There's big news from the TSA about a long-standing rule at airport security, and here's Chris Van Cleve.
This change will impact millions of flyers, and the TSA says it will allow them to get through security faster at airports nationwide because virtually everyone will be allowed to keep their shoes on. This is a change from a 19-year-old policy that was put in place after somebody attempted to blow up a U.S. airliner with explosives hidden in their shoes. But the Homeland Security Secretary says a lot has changed in the last 2 decades.
We are excited with the fact that we have the technology now, that we have the multi-layers of screening in place that we built in over the recent several years that give us the ability to allow our travelers to keep their shoes on.
Flyers could still be asked to take their shoes off if they alarm during the screening process or if they're selected for secondary screening.
Okay, Chris Van Cleve, thank you. And President Trump has decided to resume sending weapons to Ukraine. The administration last week stopped shipments of some missiles and munitions, but the president now says Ukraine has to be able to defend itself. And at a cabinet meeting today, the president said he is considering new sanctions on Russia. He suggested that the promises of President Putin amount to BS, though he did not use those initials. Later, Mr. Trump turns his attention to the war in Gaza, and Ed O'Keefe is at the White House tonight. Ed?
Maurice, it's rare for any world leader to get 2 consecutive days of meetings at the White House, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was back for day 2 with President Trump. Netanyahu is in town for 3 days of meetings, building American support for a ceasefire plan in Gaza and Israel's war with Iran. Tonight, we're told Netanyahu met one-on-one with the president in the Oval Office as there's renewed hope for a potential 60-day ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. Earlier today, the president's top Middle East negotiator said the talks are down to just one unspecified issue, and he's hopeful an agreement can be reached by the end of this week.
We shall see on that. And Ed, there's also a ruling tonight from the Supreme Court over the president's ongoing push to trim the federal workforce. What happened there?
Yeah, they lifted a block against the Trump administration's plan to lay off potentially hundreds of thousands of employees across 19 agencies, including the Agriculture Department, the Social Security Administration, and the CDC. Now, importantly, the ruling doesn't mean anyone at those agencies is on the verge of losing their job immediately, but it does give the president permission to start making plans to do so. And we know we're definitely going to face even more legal challenges. So this fight's not over yet. Maurice?
Okay, Ed O'Keefe at the White House. Thank you. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News from Ingram, Texas, Lonnie Quinn on a severe weather threat in the mid-Atlantic states.